Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com and draft.com, where if you use the promo code BOXES, you will get a free entry into your first draft, even if you are betting on fantasy football. That's totally fine with us here at Watching the Boxes, so use that promo code BOXES when you sign up for draft.com. I'm your host, Mike Catron, and joining me as always is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
I thought you were going to say Mike Thibodeau.
Mike Thibodeau?
Yeah.
Wait,
I heard your
are coming true.
I heard your strategy for my Dynasty League is to select all Bulls and former Bulls like Coach Thibodeau, so I figured it was Mike Thibodeau now.
Listen, my dreams are coming true. The only years that I want to relive in the Bulls dynasty was that split few seconds where they were the best team in the entire league for 2 years, record-wise, and probably in reality too. And there seemed to be a decade of dominance ahead of those young MVP Rose Bulls, and now I get to by watching the Timberwolves play. Luol Deng, who his knees are going to finally escape to a better reality after Thibodeau is done with him, is now on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm going to go up to Minnesota and go to a game.
All they need is Joakim Noah, man. They're one Timber Bull away.
They are. I encourage everybody. I encourage our listeners to start a free Joakim Noah hashtag out there. I've already done it. It's already out there. It's already started.
Did they have to start it if you already started it?
Well, I encourage you to jump on the free Joakim Noah hashtag. It is absolute trash that the Knicks won't just figure out a way to get Joakim Noah on the Timberwolves. It is completely inappropriate, and it's really one of the worst things that's ever happened in basketball.
I don't know about any of that stuff, but okay.
All right. Well, speaking of one of the worst things that's ever happened in basketball, tonight's team is the Sacramento Kings.
Ooh, that's a professional segue right there. A very mean one, but a professional segue.
Damn right. We are nothing but professionals here watching the boxes, and we've been doing our 30 teams in over 30 days series, and we're almost at the tail end of this. So thank God, because I'm excited to start talking about just drafting. Who do we draft? Mock drafts, sleepers. I got some tiered rankings coming up, so we got a lot of good content coming up. And if you want some exclusive content, or if you want entry into Tyler's Dynasty League, go to patreon.com/watchingtheboxes and subscribe to our Patreon. We really appreciate it. It helps the podcast keep running. But on top of that, you're going to get exclusive content as the season approaches. That's patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. Tyler, do you have anything to plug out there, Tyler, other than the Patreon?
No, man.
Wow, Tyler, you're not a corporate guy.
I'm
You're
a
all
man
about the stats.
I'm a man about town, but I don't have anything to plug at the current moment. I am, and by the time you're listening to this, there may be the first one out. I am beginning a prediction series for the Dallas Mavericks. And I wouldn't call them bold predictions, but I would call them surprising predictions that I actually believe are going to happen. So I'm not saying Dennis Smith Jr. is going to shoot 50%, but I am going to tell you and give you a lot of numbers why I think a lot of strange things are going to happen with the Dallas Mavericks this year.
I think you might have said he's going to shoot 42% in our preview for the Dallas Mavericks. Go re-listen to that one or listen to it for the first time, because that's a pretty good one, because Tyler is in the know when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks. And Tyler used to be in the know. That's two professional segues. With the Sacramento Kings, because he used to write for them. And let's talk about those Sacramento Kings. Tyler, we always ask the same question. But, man, is there anything interesting? I'm going to rephrase it. Is there anything interesting going into this season with the Sacramento Kings?
So the Sacramento Kings could be the team that propels you to a fantasy championship in this sense, right? Nobody costs any money, save for maybe Buddy Hield in the Yahoo League.
Yeah, there's no respect being paid to anyone on this team, but that is well due, since for some reason Zach Randolph and Vince Carter and whoever else was on the team last year were getting minutes over their young guys, even though they're one of the worst teams in the league. Are we just in for another season of veterans playing over rookies?
In my 2 years covering this team, you'll find that Dave Yeager says all the right stuff. He keeps telling you he's going to play the rookies, and he's excited about Buddy Hield and Willie Cauley-Stein and Harry Giles and De'Aaron Fox. But then opening night comes around, and Coach Yeager loses his stuff.
Here comes Zach Randolph.
Right? For 25 minutes. And here comes Kosta Koufos for 25 minutes. And thank God they traded away Garrett Temple, because he'd be getting 25 minutes. And you, at the end of the night, go, dude, Buddy Hield played 25 minutes tonight. You know, De'Aaron Fox played 27 minutes tonight. And we played this old veteran who's 32 years old, 30.
They're going to lose anyway. What is the point of not playing these guys? And like, if that's the case, if that's what we're going into, man, this team, it's hard to hone anyone in a that anyone that's going to play less than 28 minutes a game. It's really hard. You got to be kind of a special player. You got to be, you know, your Enes Kantors or your Jonas Valanciunases, like your per minute. Here's really good guys, and none of the guys on this team are anywhere close to being that.
Here's the more frustrating thing too. Yeager's the Tinker Man, and by that I mean
that's the worst nickname I've ever heard.
Okay, well you'll find out why. He's always messing with that rotation, and it drives me up the wall and down up one side, down the other, because it'll be like, okay, Buddy Hield finally got 30 minutes for like 2 games in a row. Sweet, I'm excited for Buddy. And then the next night he's back to 25. And then he's down to 20. And then he's up to 30. It's like he can't decide.
It's the worst nickname for pretty much the worst reason in fantasy, I guess, because that's exactly what you cannot have when you are, I guess, putting stock into someone you're drafting. And I'm looking at this team. I'm looking at some names that we've seen many times before. Some names that some guys that I personally have owned in fantasy leagues, and they've all burned me in the past because of the crappy rotation. And so really the only player that I'm targeting in my standard league drafts is Buddy Hield.
I think that might be a mistake, but we'll get there.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Buddy Hield. Mark's got him ranked 69th. Playing 26 minutes a game. I feel that feels low, but like I said, we don't know. Yahoo is being drafted around 80th, and ESPN has him for some reason ranked 152nd. Or is that a third? No, that's 152nd.
Yeah, Buddy's free in ESPN, man. He is.
What's going on there?
So you can see it in his stats, right? He's entering his 3rd season. But he's very much ridden the roller coaster, right? I mean, he had 23 minutes a game as a rookie. And if you guys all remember, he was drafted by the Pelicans. And then he was part of that DeMarcus Cousins trade that sent DeMarcus to the Pelicans. So when he came to Sacramento, they were playing him 29 minutes a night in that. The trade happened at the All-Star break. So, I mean, it was the post-All-Star break period. They played him 29 minutes. Then he was back down to 25 last year. I think that's part of the reason in the rankings, right? I mean, if you're only going to play 25.3 minutes, it's hard to be valuable. I'll say this. Buddy is one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA.
That is true. Other than Lowry Markkanen, that is 100% true. There's your Bulls reference. Drink at home if you are playing along.
So if you look at what Mark projected, I actually think it's not only doable, it might be a little bit low in some cases. Like he shot 44.6% and he's heading into his 3rd year. What says that he can't shoot like 44 or 45 again? I think that's probably where he ends up. The field goal percentage looks good. Then you get like 2.5 threes, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and 14 points.
See, when I hear his stats, they sound really nice. 45%. He's a good. He doesn't get to the line very often. That's an issue. He needs to get to the line more, but he's a good free throw shooter. He's getting 2.5
He's
threes, which is above average. 4 rebounds for a guard is pretty cool. 2 to 3 assists. That's not that great, but it's also not going to kill you. And over a steal a game, like if you look at his second half last year, he was a top 65 player per game in 26 minutes.
Yeah, and the question becomes, what do they do, right? Do they start him and Bogdan Bogdanovic on the wings? Last year, Hield mostly played as the sixth man, like the go-get-it off the bench. I'll say this, too. He's not much of a driver, so expecting that foul rate to go up is probably not going to happen. Like, he's a real good free throw shooter, but he's not James Harden, right? Like, he's not going to try to get to the basket. He's more of a shooter. Man, Hield is a type guy who's definitely being undervalued, I think, in both leagues. I think he's a top 75 player.
I would agree. I think he's underrated as well. A lot of people are overlooking at him for all the various reasons that we've already mentioned: the playing time, the poor name recognition, on a bad team.
If Jaeger gets fired or finally wisens up a little bit and plays these young guys, if Hield gets 30 minutes, I think he's a top 50 player.
Oh, wow. Going on I wouldn't even say that's going out on a limb. 30 some minutes. He can bump those stats up. Let me take a look at some other players. Okay, let's just assume Buddy Hield is going to play 30 minutes a game.
No, see, I don't think he's going to. Which I guess is maybe my point in this. Like, I'm not going to say like, oh, I'm going to rank him over this guy, thinking he's playing 30 minutes, because I don't. I mentioned Jaeger's craziness at the beginning, and I don't think this Leopard's not going to change his spots very easily, right? Like that's what he wants to do.
Super fair, but I'm trying to. I want to do a little experiment about what is Buddy Hield's actual ceiling.
Okay, fair.
What's his probable ceiling? Probably 27, 28 minutes a game and being in the top 75. That's his probable ceiling. He's a good source of threes, decent at percentages, not going to kill you anywhere else. But ceiling-wise, let's just say they go, we're turning the keys over to Buddy Hield this year. Screw it. He's playing over 30 minutes a game, just barely over 30 minutes a game, which is still, like, you could, some rookies play, if he was on a Tibbs team, he'd play 37 minutes a game. But he's played 31 minutes a game. Is this stat line out of the question? 17 points, 2.5 assists, 1.2 steals, 4.5 rebounds, and 2.7 3-pointers a game. Is that crazy?
No, it's not crazy at all.
Okay. I just wanted to throw that out there. Now, this player here, he finished 51st per game overall. So I'm just trying to boost your theory here. This player had 16 points a game, only 2 threes, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. So those are both better. 1 steal, shot 54%. I would still say that player is just a tad bit better at fantasy, but it's very close. That player was Will Barton, who finished 51st last year.
Yeah, right. And we could also see Hield make some gains, and I think that's. I mean, he's 25 this year, so he was an older rookie, and he's an older third-year player, but he's kind of entering that stage where we see some of the players' best seasons. So, I mean, I don't think it's out of the question to see him make some gains a little bit in that field goal percentage. Maybe shoot a few more threes.
It's 80th, so that's where he's going in Yahoo's average draft position. 80th. Do you like him there, or are you waiting?
I'm fine with taking him there. I don't know that you're gonna have to in a league. Is he getting a lot of hype? Like, I don't think anyone's like, oh man, I want a king. I want Buddy Hield. Like, I think that if he's, I'm not I'm not reaching for him there, I guess is my point. Like if I'm like, ooh, buddy, I bet you buddy sticks around to my next pick. Now it all depends like where that falls in the draft, right? Like if you're doing a snake draft and you know you're not picking for another 20 spots, well, someone's probably going to take him before pick 100.
Yeah, that's probably true. If you're picking, 88th, 89th, you're probably going to, and you need Buddy Hield, you need the threes, go ahead. He's a player that's valuable in both head-to-head and roto leagues. He doesn't really kill you anywhere. So I think those late rounds before the bench rounds is a perfectly fine spot, depending on your draft situation.
So this is a better question, and I think this helps a lot of people. So I'm going to ask it. Okay. You're in an ESPN league. I told you he's free, right? He's undrafted in ESPN.
Yeah,
basically. So you need Buddy Hield's skill set, right? You need the threes. You need the 14 or 15 points he might give you. His just really fits whatever your punt build is, whatever your strategy is in a head-to-head league, okay? Where are you going to look at take Buddy Hield, and where do you want to take Buddy Hield? Like, I'm going to start looking at him at pick this spot, and I definitely want to take him by this spot.
So no one else grabs him. 12 teams, 13 rounds, very standard league. I would take him in the 10th round. I would determine depends on where I'm drafting, and I'd determine if I thought he was going to fall to me in the 10th round, and I'd take him in the 10th round. I'd take him before I get to my bench spots.
All right, fair enough.
You're talking about 100. I'm talking about like 110. If I don't think he's going to fall to me and I need his stats, 9th round is fine with me.
All right. So, and I mean, I don't think, unless you're in a very savvy league, I don't think anyone's going to be grabbing him. Like most people aren't looking down to that 150 range for a player in the 90s and 100s.
Savvy league. I'm not sure too many people are excited about Buddy Hield or targeting Buddy Hield.
I'll say this.
All it takes is one, I guess, but
Jaeger makes it hard to get excited about any of these players because they just don't play many minutes.
Yeah, that's my problem. A lot of these teams that we've talked about in the past were like, well, the Cavs, there's a whole bunch of guys. I don't know who's going to play. It's going to be kind of a crapshoot. Well, here we know who should be playing, and we still don't know if they're going to play starters minutes.
Yeah, it's not that we don't know who should be playing. It's just they don't play.
Yeah, and so I kind of want to look at it in a scenario, like best case scenario, probable scenario, because this is one of the few teams you could do that with. Because the next guy on the list here, ESPN ranked him at 75, which is incredible, considering they ranked Buddy Hield 152nd. Mark has him ranked 113th, and Yahoo has him ranked 118th, and this is Big Willie Cauley-Stein. Love this guy, big fan of his fantasy game. He's kind of one of those across-the-board type players that you can get late in drafts. The problem is, up until last year, he barely played, and he just really hasn't had the time or the ability to develop at all. So I'm not really sure what to do with Willie Cauley-Stein going into this season. He does have an interesting skill set, and you would assume the center position is his, but now you got Marvin Bagley there.
Here's what I'll say. Here's my sum up in one sentence.
That it was his.
I am deathly afraid to draft this man in any league. And here's why. So you got Randolph there, whose best position is center. It's been center for the last 2, 3, 4 years.
Yep.
Okay. You got Kosta Koufos, who
for some reason plays.
Despite Jaeger trying to make him a power forward, his best position is center. And here's the thing about Kosta Koufos. Kosta Koufos is a little bit like DeAndre Jordan on a much crappier level, right? Like he doesn't have the hops of DeAndre Jordan.
On the crappiest level.
But he does a lot of dirty work that other players don't want to do, especially young players. I think that's why Jaeger plays him, right? He bangs on the boards and he tries to box you out and make you work. And he does little things well. He doesn't play outside of himself, right? He shoots a real high field goal percentage every single year because he's only cleaning the glass and dunking the ball home. He's not trying to shoot jump shots. And
yeah.
So he does a lot of good things for real basketball. They're not good in fantasy, which is why no fantasy person wants Kosta Koufos. But
no, he's boring and terrible.
But like, if you watch the games, you're like, okay, I get why you play. Like, you're good. You're a good basketball player. You don't do a lot of statistical things, but you're helping the team. So
Yeah.
you got those two. Marvin Bagley is going to play some at center, you would think, especially if they're going to play a young player who everyone's overlooking. We'll get to talk about here in a little bit. So there's three guys which should be in line for center minutes. That goes without mentioning Scalabassier, who...
How dare you mention my favorite king, past the Labassiere.
You know what I mean? So he's there. Harry Giles could potentially play at center.
Harry Giles. I like Harry Giles. And
we're going to talk a lot about Harry Giles when we get there. So how many minutes can you legitimately expect for Willie Cauley-Stein?
I'm just going to throw it out here. He played 28 minutes per game last season. And if you are in roto leagues, he's pretty much a stay away. But because of the free throw percentage. But if you punt free throw percentage, I'm just going to throw this out there. If you're punting free throws, he was the 69th ranked player per game. And if you don't care about three-pointers, which, honestly, you really shouldn't care about three-pointers from your center anyway, but this is a new year, this is a new league, and centers do make threes. If you're punting threes and free throw percentage, he was the 37th ranked player per game last year. So there are head-to-head builds, and I do see head-to-head standard drafts where Willie Cauley-Stein actually should be picked up and owned if he's playing 28 minutes.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
Don't you have to go under on that, though?
I think he's ownable. Don't get me wrong. Like, he has a good fantasy skill set. And when you watch him play, he's fun to watch.
Sure.
But, man, just him, I don't even see him playing 28 minutes. Like, they probably cut him back down to 26 or 25, which puts him kind of in that last round as far as fantasy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're looking at him right near the end of your draft. And here's the other thing. Like, there's going to be nights where they play him like 15 minutes, and you're going to be like, why do I own this guy?
Yeah, and he's going to look terrible.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm just really concerned that they don't know what they're doing. And so
you don't say.
So for me, like at 75, that's just tough and stay away. If I can get him outside the top 100, I might think about it. But I just feel like in my drafts, like he's around outside the top 100 in a lot of them. And I'm looking around going, I'd rather have you. I'd rather have you because I feel good that you're actually going to play and be good. Well, I'd rather have you. Ooh, and you. And so then somebody else takes him, and I'm like, I feel good about that because I don't want that headache.
Yeah, I don't want the you kind of hit it like his projection is less minutes, and that is not a good sign. And I don't want to be involved with that kind of player. Like I said, I do like his fantasy stats. I do think he does have a place in certain punting strategies, and I'm willing to take a last round flyer on him if I'm in even a standard league and it just fits the punting strategy and the mold and the player type that I need. But other than that,
here's two other things that drove me crazy about the Kings. So the Kings could have had Luka Doncic.
Well, yeah, who cares?
The Kings should have had Luka Doncic, but Vlade Divac said, well, we needed a big man more than a wing.
No one thought that.
Which, I mean, I don't know what world he lives in, but I just named off like 10 bigs. Name the wings that they have. Buddy Hield and Bogdan Bogdanovic. Name another wing on the Kings. Go.
Scalabassier.
He's not a wing. He's a combo forward.
I think you should be. I think you should. They should try him at wing. Just why not? What are we doing here? It was a dumb move. It's a dumb organization. It's ran poorly. It's probably going to move to another city.
But my point is, in saying that, is I don't think they trust Willie Cauley-Stein all that much. If they're saying we needed a big man, well, you can't think Zach Randolph's going to be around forever. He's 36 years old. You can't think Kosta Koufos is going to be a bigger part when he's played 15 minutes a game for the last how many seasons.
They also got Harry Giles in there. Like, do they think he's just never going to be healthy?
And here's the thing. I think that they view their front court of their winning time. That's probably how they refer to it as well. As Harry Giles and Marvin Bagley III. They don't view it as Willie Cauley-Stein, and that worries me. The other thing I'll say about all the players on this team is no matter what they say or what happens during training camp and the preseason, I will never feel any better about any of these players. Because they did this last year, and I wrote about it, and it drove me nuts. So they came out on a day right after a game and basically said, we're going to rest 2 veterans every game. So the veterans were guys like Garrett Temple, Zach Randolph, Costa Cooper. We're going to sit 2 out every game to play our young players more. You want to know how many games that lasted? 2. Yep. They set 2 the one night, they set 2 the second game, and then they all played for like the next 3 months.
So, I respect their choices of just playing veterans. Like, why not?
But my point being is, like, no matter what they say, like, don't believe it. Just don't believe it on this team. Just do not believe anything they say.
It's a complete crapshoot. But here's a player that I think, man, like, why the hell would this player, and then we just listed every single reason why this won't happen, but why in the hell would De'Aaron Fox not play 30-plus minutes next year?
So I get why his numbers were down a little bit last year, right? They had George Hill to start the year. And I was fine with them playing George Hill over him in the sense that George Hill is deserving of those minutes. Like, if you're going to sign a player like George Hill,
don't draft De'Aaron Fox.
Well, you got to play him, right? Like, so the stupid move by them was signing George Hill, not playing George Hill, in my opinion. Right? They should have just played De'Aaron Fox. But sometimes I get the teams want a veteran to kind of help a younger player make that adjustment a little quicker, because we talk about it. It's a big adjustment going from college to the NBA. I think Fox may be the only player I'd project to play 30 minutes.
I know they got Yogi Ferrell on the team now. That's probably his only competition here.
Yeah, because Frank Mason, say what you want about Frank Mason, but he has some bad feet, right? He's had like 2 or 3 foot surgeries since he became a pro. And not only that, but he's not a good. So,
well, yeah. Everybody knows that.
De'Aaron Fox should see all the minutes, right? He should actually play 32 or 33 or 34 minutes a game.
He should play that, but he's probably going to play close to 30. But De'Aaron Fox is not really is. I mean, this is a really hard thing to say about a starting point guard in the NBA. Not a great fantasy player. His percentages, including his free throw as a guard, are trash.
That entire draft class, none of those point guards. I talked about the 5 point guards in that draft class that were supposed to be studs. None of them can shoot free throws.
None of them can really shoot.
That's what I mean. So don't expect a good percentage from anywhere, right? He's not a good jump shooter. He's an attack the basket type player. He's Russell Westbrook without the crazy stat getting of Russell Westbrook, right? Like,
without being good or being able to pass the ball or ever being able to rebound the ball. Like, he's just like, he's not an elite rebounder by any means as a point guard. Last year he averaged 3. He could probably average a little bit more. He only averaged 4.4 assists, 1 steal, and 0.3 blocks.
So here's the thing I'll say about the assist.
And less than a 3. Like, what are we doing here? Why is anyone drafting De'Aaron Fox in the standard league?
Here's the thing I'll say about the assist number and why I think it can be like 5 to 5.5 is they played him off the ball a lot, which is not a good look for him just because he can't really shoot. I think they're going to put the ball in his hands a little bit more, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Bogdan Bogdanović is a decent ball handler. Buddy Hield's a decent ball handler. But to play De'Aaron Fox at his most effectiveness, I think he's got to kind of have the ball in his hands. So I could see the assist number going up a little bit to like 5 a game. The allure of him would be that he plays 30 minutes and he scores you like 13 or 14 points and he gives you like 4.5, 5 assists and like 3 rebounds, and hopefully he gets the steal up to like 1.2.
Yeah, I'm not allured. Like, that's kind of my point, is that even best case scenario, 32 minutes, they put the ball in his hands. Well, he's a 14.6 assists at best guy, and that's like with terrible percentages.
Well,
So unless you're in a head-to-head league,
we talk about rookies getting their percentages up in their second year. Like it wouldn't surprise me if he shot like 42 and a half, 43, which is still isn't good, but it's getting closer to not killing you territory.
It's not good. And half a three a game. Half a three a game from your point guard.
Yeah, but I mean, in Yahoo, you can have him
that's negative in today's game.
As a bench player, right? I mean, like, if I'm streaming this guy in a head-to-head league.
Yeah, like, that's what he is. He's an assist streamer. And that's all I see him as. I guess if you want him on your bench because you suck at assists and you want, or you just need that extra boost in assists and you want to keep him holding up a bench spot, like, feel free. It's not my, that wouldn't be my first choice as a bench player. Hell, I think I'd rather have George Hill as a bench player.
I'm with you. I guess people are seeing the fact that he could be better. I just don't know, man. A guy who can't shoot nowadays as a point guard is very worrisome, and that was kind of why I was worried that they were all in on De'Aaron Fox last year. It's like having a point guard that can't really shoot is dangerous, in my opinion, in today's basketball. But maybe that's just me.
Yes, it's having anyone on your team who can't do multiple things, let alone shoot, being one of them is not a good sign. Let's talk about someone who actually can shoot on the Sacramento Kings, Bogdan Bogdanovic. This is like one of your favorite late round, late sleeper type of guys. You talked him up last year. He was not terrible last year. He's currently being drafted at 122, which I think is more of on Yahoo drafts, which is more of I think a say in where Yahoo has him ranked versus people going down and finding him in the list of names and drafting him at 122. He is 25 years old, and there towards the second half of the season, Bogdan was playing about 30 minutes a game. He was scoring 12 and a half points, 2 3-pointers, and about 4 assists, more assists than most of the rest of the team, and about a steal a game. He's fine, right? He shot 44% on the season. He's a perfectly fine, boring player who seems to be bound to the waiver wire.
Yeah, and we can talk about Mark's ranking for a second. This is a player I think Mark missed on just a hair. And the sense is he projected his minutes to go down like 2 minutes a game, and
how?
That was the thing I didn't understand, and maybe we'll get Mark on to talk about that. Like, it just didn't make any sense to me why he projected that, in the sense that this team has no wings, man. They don't have anybody to take this guy's spot. If anything, I think
Jackson's gonna be Ben McLemore's back. Like maybe the return of Ben McLemore.
Yeah, no, that's not happening. So here's another guy who could potentially push up even a little bit in minutes. He wasn't playing a whole ton at the beginning of the season. They kind of found their faith in him. I won't even say I was halfway through the season. It was probably like a third to a quarter of the way through the season. I mean, if I could see this guy getting 30 minutes a game, one of the very few Kings I'll say that about. Like, I could see that actually happening just because they don't have a ton of wings.
But even then, he's a streamer if you need a body to fill in a spot on your roster, right? Like, he doesn't do anything great. He's not going to give you anything to talk about in rebounds or blocks, which from his position that makes some sense. And he's not. I mean, he's going to score like 12, 13 points. Like, this is just nothing to be excited about.
The thing that gets you excited is like he got 3.3 assists a game. If you can get that up a little bit, like 3.5, 3.7, like okay, that starts to get interesting. From I think in most sites you can play him at small forward. I think he's kind of got shooting guard, small forward eligibility.
And almost 2 3-pointers and almost a steal. Okay,
and decent percentages. Like, okay. I'm not saying that he's must own. Like, I'm fine with him being in that streamers class. But if you did own him, I mean, there's worse guys to own. There's much worse guys to own. I'll say that. Like, for me, he's in the streaming category of like, I'm putting him on my roster. I'm taking him off. I'm putting him on. I'm taking him off. But if you owned him the whole year, like, that might not be the absolute worst thing in the world.
There are worse guys to own. I'm not going to own him the entire year. Let's talk about the rookie, Marvin Bagley Jr. Well, the third, not even junior. That's his dad. Marvin Bagley the third. I got too excited about all the other juniors that are rookies. This is another swing and a miss by ESPN. This is the highest ranked Sacramento King, ranked at 69.
The highest ranked rookie. He's ahead. Doncic is 72 in their rankings, and Bagley's 69.
What shit are they drinking over there at ESPN? They do get quite a few things right, and when they're wrong, they're as wrong as possible.
So here's what I'll say about this. He is being drafted 131.7 in Yahoo leagues.
Not bad.
They can enjoy that because I think that's too high.
Really? Why do you think that's too high?
Well, we mentioned there's 900 players to play in the front court.
He scores. He gets rebounds.
Okay, but
shoots threes.
How does this guy score? How do you think this guy scores, Mike?
I did not watch a lot of Duke basketball because I could care two shits about college basketball, but I think he scores quite a bit of his stuff around the rim.
He is a strictly left-handed driver.
Oh, no.
So that worked out all right for like Lamar Odom.
Who was a freak.
Right. But we've seen plenty of guys who, if they only can go one hand,
it's over for them.
That's not going to work out. So he's a decent jump shooter, right? Like he shot 39.7% on college three-pointers last year, but he took less than 2 a game. So to expect him to unfurl a bunch of three-pointers, like I don't see that. He'll shoot a little bit in the mid-range. So here's my worry on Marvin Bagley, and maybe you don't share these worries. He's a 2-stat producer, I think. Points and rebounds.
The sexy stats.
Okay. Which is maybe why ESPN has him ranked so high, right? Like 11.1 rebounds and 21 points last year for Duke. Okay, cool. Great. He played 34 minutes a game. He ain't playing 34 minutes a game for the Kings. Mark projected him for 27. If he plays that'll be a good season for him. Okay. I could see the field goal percentage not being that good. If people realize you can only go left,
that ain't going to go well.
Right. So now we're talking about a big man shooting 45%, 46%.
He's also not going to give you assists. He's also not going to give you blocks from the center spot.
Right.
He's probably my 5th rookie that I would draft, and I wouldn't draft him.
I don't think he's ownable in a standard league, especially at the beginning of the season.
He's gonna play a lot. He might play a lot of minutes. So if he plays a lot of minutes, would you consider taking with your last? If I could guarantee you he's going to play 32 minutes a game, guaranteed, would you take him with the last pick in the draft?
In certain punt builds, sure. If I needed rebounds and some extra scoring. But like if I need defensive stats, like no. You know what I mean? Like if I'm like, ooh man, I'm light on steals or light on blocks or light on both, like he's gonna be half and a half, in my opinion.
That's fair. Most of these guys on this team are pretty undraftable. Zach Randolph, I feel like he's pretty undraftable.
This is another ESPN rank that made me laugh. And maybe whoever ranks for ESPN is like a huge Kings fan. 111th ranked for Zach Randolph.
Respect.
I'm not sure what the hell happened there. But
yeah, look at like what was he ranked last year?
I mean, you'd have to look that up. He did lead the Kings in scoring with 14.5 points a game.
He certainly did. He per game, Zach Randolph was ranked 145.
Yeah, so he's going to get better at 37 years old?
Congratulations. Zach Randolph was like 111 like at the end of his prime.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. And Yahoo EADP is even 137. Like, I'm not drafting this guy in a standard league.
Don't know what you're doing there.
I will say this. In the games that he plays, he'll probably play like 25 minutes a game. Jaeger and this guy, man, they're tight. They are.
So basically, I think the rest of this team is deep league interesting. Like Zach Randolph playing 24 or 5 minutes a game. Cool. There's some good rebounds and points. Yogi Ferrell playing 22 minutes a game. All right. He was a decent fantasy player in Dallas every once in a while in 28 minutes a game. Scalabassine's got a lot of upside. Harry Giles has got even more upside. But none of these guys are standard league relevant.
So here's the thing I'll say about Harry Giles. If you play in a deep league on either ESPN or Yahoo, they both have him ranked ridiculously low. On ESPN, he is 715th. It took me like 5 minutes just to find him.
I didn't know there was 715 players.
He's ranked below at least 20 players I saw that are retired. Kobe Bryant is ranked ahead of him. Kobe Bryant hasn't played how many years, Mike? You know what I mean? It's like they just leave all these retired guys in there. So he is literally 715th. Would that be the worst deeply? If you league drafts like 300 players, would he be the worst last pick?
No, not at all.
Right? Like he's got some upside. We mentioned there's a ton of guys to play in the front court. I think they want to use this guy to build around. I think they're very scared of his injuries, right? So
yeah,
we haven't really seen this guy play competitive basketball since his junior year of high school. Right?
But he was one of the top prospects coming out of high school. And on top of that, a lot of the people who were in his class say he was the best basketball player that they played against. So if the planets align, Harry Giles is good and he starts playing more minutes.
And he's the modern big man, right?
Yeah, he's a modern big man.
He can pass. He can do a lot of things that big men today do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying pick him in any kind of standard league because he could get 12 minutes a game. But
he could play 12 games.
Well, that too. If they seem committed
to reality
in a deep league, I think there's worse players.
All right, there you go. I think that is it for the Sacramento Kings. I really don't want to talk about anyone else on this team. Maybe they'll get Isaiah Thomas back, and he could be the pizza man again.
Dude, those commercials are the best.
Those are great. Go Google those. That is it for the Kings. We will continue our 30 teams in over 30 days segment soon. But if you guys are enjoying what we're doing, leave us feedback and give us a rating on whatever you're listening to this podcast on. Or if you want exclusive content or entry into the listener, one of the listener leagues. I think the Dynasty one might be full. There might be one more spot. So get in there. Go to patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. You might get that last Dynasty spot. If not, you have to be in the boring redraft league with me. But if there's enough, if people want to be in a Dynasty league, we're going to get them into a Dynasty league. So we really appreciate all our patrons out there and also just all our listeners in general. So if you guys got feedback, stuff you want to hear on the show, we've heard people who want some ADP episodes. We're going to have those for you. So if you got something you want to hear, send us a tweet. You can find Tyler at Tyler P. Watts, WATTS, or you can find me at Watch the Boxes. Send any message through. Well, not any message, right? Like don't be a terrible person. You can send
Don't Google Fournier and then send Mike a picture. No, everyone do that.
Don't do that. You'll be blocked. You'll be banned. If you want to talk crap to Tyler, that's fine. It's none of my business. Do not at me. And I think that's it. We'll see you next time. Have a good one. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com and draft.com, where if you use the promo code BOXES, you will get a free entry to your first draft. I'm your host, Mike Catron, and joining me as always is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
I'm just excited to talk about the Utah Jazz today.
The Utah, so like a lot of the teams we've talked about in the past, not that interesting. We talked about the Kings last time. Kings, boring. Not a lot of good players. They're a mess of a franchise. Utah, on the other hand, a very solid franchise with a lot of interesting players.
So, and we're going to talk a lot about this too. So the rankings on these players got wild on Utah. And I don't know who was drinking what, where, with who. But I don't know, man. Like everything's all jumbled up on this team, so this should be an exciting one to talk about from a lot of different angles.
This will be. I like this one a lot. I think there's a lot of good ownable players on this team, and we want to give a quick shout out to our Patreon subscribers. Thank you so much. Our listener leagues are the Dynasty League is filling up. So if you are interested in being in a Tyler's Dynasty League, the rules are out on Patreon.com/watching the boxes. If that league sounds interesting to you, go ahead and subscribe, and we will get you into that league. Or if you just want to be in a regular league with regular rules, then you could be in my boring redraft league.
So I have it on good authority that Mike has not read the Dynasty League rules, so I can't wait for the draft when Mike jacks up the whole league and like picks some random guy who probably is terrible in that league.
I cannot confirm nor deny that I've read the rules. So, but that is pretty par per usual. Don't ever go into a draft without reading the rules, kids. It is a bad idea, but it is a good idea to check out patreon.com/watching the boxes. You will get exclusive content to prepare for your upcoming drafts. And let's prepare for the Utah Jazz. Tyler, what is the most interesting thread going into the Utah Jazz? Like, what's the narrative that people are seeing here?
Here's the thing about the Jazz this year, right? Not really anything changed for the Jazz.
Nope.
I feel like same exact team. They just running it back.
Pretty much.
And so the big fantasy narrative is Donovan Mitchell, right? We saw the huge breakout this season. Yahoo ADP has him all the way up to 17.7.
Woof.
Which that seemed but then so conversely, like to me, that's a good bit too high when we're talking about top 20 players. But then ESPN has him ranked 44th, which like if I could get him at 44, I'd be doing the jig.
Woof. Also, all these are just what's going on here. You're not kidding me with the fact that these rankings are all over the place.
Right, like this one in particular is pretty head scratching. Like, how can one see him in the top 20 and the other one see him as a 4th round pick?
Yeah, and that is the big narrative. Donovan Mitchell, blah blah blah. Donovan Mitchell, biggest breakout candidate. Donovan Mitchell, blah 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 blah. Top second round, definitely a second rounder, being drafted 17th, being ranked in the 20s. And what am I missing here, Tyler? Donovan Mitchell. A lot of people are like, "Oh, wait till he plays starters minutes this year." Donovan Mitchell averaged 33 minutes per game last year. Donovan Mitchell started the first game of the season. He also started 2 games in October. And then after November 10th, he started every single game that he played in.
Yeah, right. He didn't start in 8 games. Like, people can say what they want. Like, Donovan Mitchell, okay, maybe he does play 35 minutes, right? Like, maybe they go full Tom Thibodeau and go 36 minutes, 37 minutes. But, like, there's not a lot of upward mobility. And I think we see this too. Like, anything over, like, 33 kind of maybe has a law of diminishing returns per minute. Like, you're just tired, man. You've been working your butt off.
Yeah, in fact, if you look at the rest of the season, the second half he was playing 35, 36 minutes a game. And actually his free throw percentage started to tail off a little bit as he was shooting more free throws, getting in the line more, and carrying more of an offensive burden. Actually, and so did his field goal, just a tad, not a lot, but the field goal stayed pretty consistent, just maybe a little less than 43.7 that he ended up finishing the entire season with. But I mean, I love Donovan Mitchell's fantasy game. 20 points, 2.5 threes, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal and a half. Those are really, really nice numbers. I can't find one person who will tell me how he's going to be as good or better than Jimmy Butler.
Well, I'm with you there.
Jimmy Butler is one of those
I guess
solid
there's one way. I'll tell you one way.
Third-tier guys, second-tier guys, really.
And maybe you don't have this off the top of your head, but Jimmy Butler has not played the 79 games that Donovan Mitchell played since what year?
That one Bulls year.
You know what I'm saying?
Where Thibodeau,
so
the year that Thibodeau left.
Yeah, so if we're looking at totals, though, like that's how Donovan Mitchell's better than Jimmy Butler.
If you're looking at totals, I'm all with you on that one.
That's the one way. That's the only way. Like per game, though, I think Jimmy Butler's definitely better.
So last year on totals, he finished. Donovan Mitchell finished 39th. Okay, why is he being drafted 17th? The jump from your tier down there around the 40s, 30s, 40s to a top 20, a top 15 player is exponentially more than the jump from 70 to 40.
Well, I guess
maybe it is. I mean, just it
no,
is
no, no,
much
no, no.
harder to
I'm
get
not
better
debating
at the
that.
game.
I'm not debating that part. I'm
Sure.
debating how he gets there in my own mind, I guess.
Okay, go.
So
I want to be convinced. I'm not.
well, we've talked about this maybe all summer in any podcast we've done. We've seen one data point from Donovan Mitchell. You know, do you look at any players? What, like, okay, pick a player who's played like 5 years in the league, Mike.
Go.
Anybody off
Evan Fournier.
Okay. If you look at any one of his seasons, right, that can be very misleading, and it can be any player, right? If I pick anybody's best season ever, you know what I mean? Like, they can look like a much better player than they actually are. One data point, okay, sure, we have 79 games, but we still don't really for certain know what Donovan Mitchell is. A lot of people get way better from their first year, their second year. There are players who, like Tyreke Evans, man. Tyreke Evans' best year, I still think, is his rookie season.
It is, and that's obvious, but my level of confidence in how good Donovan Mitchell is, I'd say is pretty high. I think he's very good. I think Jason Tatum's very good. I think they'll both get better. But to put someone like a second-year player amongst your Paul Georges, amongst your Kyrie Irvings, amongst your Jimmy Butlers, in that level, saying he's a top 20 player, to me, just feels absurd.
You're never going to get me to say he's a top 20 player.
He's not better than Chris Middleton as a fantasy player.
Yeah, no, give me Middleton. Here's what I will say, though. So he has a little room to gain on the margins. We mentioned it. Sure. He might play another minute and a half.
That's where he has to gain.
He might shoot a little better. He might get up to 4 rebounds and 4 assists. You know, he might get up to 1.6 steals. He might get up to 0.4 blocks. He might score a point or two more. Sure. And obviously, like, he shoots up a little bit. Like, if he does everything a little tiny bit better, he shoots up a little bit.
Yeah, he does. He'll definitely shoot up a bit. He finished the season getting better, scoring 23 points, 2.5 threes, about 4.5 rebounds, and a little over 4 assists with a steal and a half. And, you know, there's another guy who had about 23 points, 2.5 threes, over 4 rebounds, over 4 assists, and only 1.2 steals. And he did it with better percentages, and his name was Bradley Beal.
Yeah, right. So I think people are going a little bonkers for Donovan Mitchell. Like, he's the hot young thing. And I get that. To me, he's a 3rd-round pick. Like, he's in the beginning of my 3rd round. He's in there with the Kyrie Irving, right? We talked about him. I kind of want him in my 3rd round, too. Like, I'd rather have Kyrie. So he's a 3rd-round pick for me. I don't think I'm going to get him in any 3rd round because I think everyone's going to be, oh, Donovan Mitchell, man, he's the best. He's the bomb. He's the you-know-what.
Yeah.
You guys enjoy him in the 2nd round. Maybe he gets up there.
You could take Donovan Mitchell in the 2nd round. I'll take Devin Booker right after him.
Right, or I'll take
Bradley Beal in the 3rd.
Right, like all those guys, like all those wings. I'd rather have Booker. I'd rather have Middleton. I'd rather have. And so it gets to the point where it's just like, okay, well, you're in my 3rd round now.
Yeah, and if you say, all right, I'm looking at, like I just said, you're looking at Bradley Beal, you're looking at Klay Thompson, and you go, all right, well, Donovan Mitchell's younger, he has more upside, and he could be better. At worst, he's going to be Bradley Beal. All right, take him before Bradley Beal. But taking him ahead of, I don't know, any of these 2nd-round players just seem like, I don't know what people are doing out there. Yeah, I wouldn't take him over Kemba Walker. I like Kemba Walker.
I'm probably with you there.
I mean, that's probably pretty close, but I like what Kemba Walker does a little bit more than Donovan
and you have to feel better about knowing what exactly you're gonna get from Kemba Walker. Like,
yeah, more assists, more assists, and more threes.
Would it be crazy for the Jazz to play him only 32 minutes? Like, sure, it doesn't seem like it's likely, but maybe they feel like that's where he's most efficient. Well, the numbers are going to go down a little bit. Like, maybe they do play him 35 minutes. Maybe, You know what I mean? Like a lot of things could happen. We have one data point from him. And to say that that's the be all end all of his career, I don't think is fair in either direction, right? Like he could be a lot better. He could be a lot worse. We don't really know.
He could get better. And on that upside, if you want to reach for him, I'd say reach for him for a little bit, but reaching for him in the second round, that's
and in like
not late in the second round, you know what I mean?
Top 15, right? Like some people are reaching for him in the top 15.
Well,
like
17, that's absurd.
Well, so that's the ADP too. That's the average draft position.
That means someone's drafting him higher because I'm certain people are drafting him lower.
Yes, because I'm definitely not drafting him till like in the 25 to 30 range. So that means other guys are out there drafting him at like 12, 13, 14.
Yeah. I don't think we can harp on this enough. Donovan Mitchell is overrated this year. So buyer beware.
Yeah.
The next guy on this list, I don't think he is overrated.
Dude, ESPN ranked him 15th. I think he's overrated.
He's overrated in ESPN. I'm not going to count ESPN because looking at this rank and then looking at the next rank, I can't even look at the ranks anymore. This guy's average draft position in Yahoo is 30th, and he's 32nd in Mark's rankings, so pretty dead on. I'm talking about a Rudy Gobert, who is one of the last probably top centers you can pull out of the draft. A guy who had a little bit of a setback last year, was looking to even get better, have a little bit more of a breakout year, and then only played 56 games last year, which was quite sad for all the people who drafted him.
Injured 2 out of the last 3 years. Are you worried about that at all?
A little. Just a little bit.
Yeah, me too.
But what I'm not worried about is this guy's ability to get incredible block numbers. And blocks are probably the most rare category.
Oh, they're definitely going down.
His blocks or just blocks in general?
Blocks in general.
Yeah, blocks in general. Getting blocks is a lot harder to do. He's probably one of the last top guys who's going to give you blocks. Incredible field goal. His free throw is 68%, so it doesn't really kill you. It doesn't help, but it doesn't kill you. He is not a modern big, so he does not shoot threes. He's also not a great scorer, but the 11 rebounds a game makes up for that, and the almost a steal a game also makes up for that. So, he's more of the old school pure center, but he's probably the best old school pure center on the board in a league really lacking centers and lacking those old school stats of blocks and rebounds.
Here's the thing I'll say. He's probably 3rd to 5th in the league in rebounding, and he's in the top 5 in blocks.
Yeah.
So you're getting
not a lot of people are there.
Right, 2 categories where he's pretty super elite.
Much more valuable in head-to-head than in roto, for that particular reason. And in a head-to-head league, I see why people are picking him 30th. In fact, in a roto league, I can see why you're picking him 30th.
I don't see why you're picking him 15th, though.
No, that's a little too high.
Right, so he's another guy who's in my 3rd round.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I think, Rudy Gobert was due for an upswing last year. Didn't happen because of injury. Could that upswing come this year? It's certainly possible. He's 26 years old. He's entering his prime, and he could be 14 and 12 with a block and a half, and it could be, the Rudy Gobert of 16, 17, where per game he was the 19th best player. So I think that's certainly possible. I have him ranked in my top 30 for sure, and I don't mind swinging for Rudy Gobert, especially if you aren't able to get one of those top centers in the first round, because the drop off in center is pretty hard and pretty fast.
Talked about this a few other times too. Like there's that massive clump, and then you kind of got to pick out of the clump in that mid, like 7, 8, 9 round range. And picking out of the clump sounds fine because you're like, well, I'm going to get a player that's similar to all these other players. But if for whatever reason you get the player in the clump that has the terrible year, you know what I mean, then you could be in trouble because now everybody has a better center than you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a little concerned about picking in the clump sometimes. Like I'm like, well, if my guy has the bad year, I'd be absolute worst center in the league.
Yeah, it's not going to go well if Steven Adams breaks his foot or something like that. You know, like it's just the drop off is hard and fast, and you're probably going to have to. I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of people who end up punting blocks and rebounds because that's just the direction the league is going. Also, Tyler, you should look into copywriting picking out of the clump. I think that's your new catchphrase.
That's why I'm picking out of the clump.
Just picking out of the clump. The next guy is in maybe like a mini clump there in the mid rounds. He's being picked 65th, which feels a little low. Rudy Gobert was ranked 15th. Joe Ingles is ranked 113th by ESPN. Are they drunk over there? What? Like, I don't understand.
They just don't know this guy, I think. They can't decide what a Jazz guy.
They've probably never heard of him. So they're like, yeah, that guy sucks. He must be like a seventh man on this team or something like that. Like this. Well, 113.
If you remember last year, if you remember 100 and something. Are you there?
You broke up. Start over.
All right. If you remember last year, that wasn't he ranked in like the 200s?
Oh yeah, he was even worse. He was definitely a no-namer. I mean, he looks like the guy playing pickup down the street who's like not good. Instead, this guy is a NBA caliber starter. He is going to be 31 this year. He had a great year last year. We've seen these guys kind of come out of nowhere, like Joe Ingles, and be really good for like. Remember when DeMar Carroll was like pretty good, and then everybody's like, "Oh, finally!" Like how rare it is for a guy that age to suddenly come really good, and then DeMar Carroll was never good again. You know, Joe Ingles could fall into that trap. It does feel like they use him pretty well in Utah, and it also feels like his skill set is just really really nice. I don't know if those assist numbers get repeated as they were last year, but he's a great fantasy player.
Here's the thing about him too. It's not any one standout category, right? Like we can count on Rudy Gobert for the blocks and the rebounds.
Yeah.
Like Joe Ingles just kind of does everything good. Not great, just good. And so if the numbers go down,
anywhere,
then he's making a much bigger drop.
Yeah, so he's in that tier, I'll call it the 40 to 70 tier. Those guys are the guys you're filling in your roster with to meet either to strengthen the strengths of your best players or to fill in the holes of your best players. And that 40 to 60 range, which Joe Ingles should be considered in, that margin is thin. And so if he does fall off really anywhere, even in like assists, he's going to be in the bottom of that pack. But during the second half of last year, he was scoring a little bit more. He was hitting a little bit more threes. He was getting a little bit more assists, and he was at the top of that pack. He was in the top 50 over the second half of last season. Picking him in that top 50, I feel like is a mistake. I don't think you really have to worry about that. I don't think a lot of people are like, can't wait to draft Joe Ingles. But right after 50 hits, that's when people start looking around at Joe Ingles. They see what he was ranked last year. They're going to start targeting him right after that. I'm not sure I'm going to own Joe Ingles in a lot of leagues, but if he slips a little bit into that 60, where his average draft is, if he in Yahoo 65, if he slips into the rounds after that, I don't know why you're not owning him.
I'm with you there. And ESPN, right? Like he's going to be available at 70, 75, 80, right? He's at 113th. Like you can get a nice little value there. But you nailed it on the head, right? Like he's never a guy I'm going to be like, I need Joe Ingles. I need him. I gotta have him. Like I'm never going to reach up with this guy because it's like, sure, he's great. He does a lot of great things. He helps me in almost every category. But other than blocks, right? He's good in every category except for blocks. But at the same time, it's like maybe I need points, so I'm going to get, I don't know, somebody scoring 18 points a game in that range. And then maybe I need assists, so I'm going to get this. Like, he's just never a guy that you're like, well, I have to have that.
You're absolutely right. He's going to be overlooked. He's probably going to slip. I think you're going to be able to get him at a value. So do keep an eye out for Joe Ingles. And if you're in ESPN, go out and put him in your queue. Like, get him up there. Make sure you're seeing him before it sneaks down to 113. Come on,
113.
Give me a break. This next guy, a lot of people said he had a disappointing season last season. I'll say, you know what? I'll say he had a disappointing season when it came to the reason people draft Ricky Rubio, and that's for his assists. Everything else Ricky Rubio did either stayed the same or got, in fact, a little bit better, other than his assists. Quite a few of those assists probably went to Joe Ingles.
And we can talk about some of the things got significantly better. Like, he got a half a three more a game. Like, that's a significant amount, right? He got 2 more points a game. Like, that's fairly significant. He got a half a rebound, which we talk about rebounds going down all the time, right? Like, he's still elite in steals. I think people are going to be sleeping a little too much on Ricky Rubio. To me, Ricky Rubio is still a top 50 player.
Wow.
ESPN ranks him 60. In a head-to-head league, I think this guy's a top 50 player. If you're punting field goal percentage.
Oh, well, hold up. In a roto league, there are some caveats, right? The field goal percentage isn't great. The turnovers are, they're turnovers or whatever. Nobody cares about turnovers. But in the second half, I'll just throw this out there. In the second half of last year, and I know Rubio had I don't know if he's injured at the beginning of the season or there was just kind of like
if you remember, he had what was it? Was it an elbow? Something that he played, but he was complaining that something hurt.
Something was up with him, and he's only playing like 22, 23 minutes a game for a while.
That was a weird stretch where they were like they were playing him but sitting him.
Like it didn't make any sense. It's like, do you want him to get better or do you not want him to get better? Like, what's going on here? Once that was kind of passed in the second half, and this is what a lot of people are going to overlook, his overall per game ranking was 83, like I said. But in the second half, he was a top 50 player.
I think he's always a top 50 player. Him and Jeff Teague, man. No one loves those 2 point guards.
Nobody loves those guys. Nobody does. You're right. Nobody loves those guys at all. Ricky Rubio, going to be overlooked. If you're looking to get those 9 assists, though, it's probably not going to happen. It's just not the style that Utah plays.
So after that stretch,
sneak up a little bit?
Maybe. Do you have the numbers of what he got after that stretch where he was?
I do.
Kind of farting around. Yeah.
So I'll just say in the last 37 games of the season, so basically the last half of the season, 15 points. That is a career high. Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that feels safe. Almost 1.5 threes. So that's probably a career high.
And those are both by far career highs, by far.
So one goes with the other anyway. And then about 5 rebounds and 6 assists.
And that's what I was going to say is
in 1.5 steals.
I look at the steals as pretty safe in that 1.4 to 1.7 range. Like, those are pretty. I lock that in. That's good. Yeah. That's a high quality number.
28. He's not playing the passing lanes like he was in Minnesota, where he could just do whatever he wants, and he was getting like almost 2 steals a game. It's not going to be that good, but the steals feel safe.
Right. So lock that in. I think the assist numbers definitely go up. I think he's going to play a little bit more minutes too. I think the assist numbers are probably closer to 6, maybe as low as like 5.5. You're talking probably pretty close to 4 to 5 rebounds a game. I think 13 points is safe. He might even get like 14 or 15. I mean, just sign me up for this, and it's a top 50 guy. And I don't think he's going in the top 50. ESPN ranked him 60. Yahoo's 56.1. Like, I'll pick him in the top 50. I'll take him at 48, 49, 50.
Yeah, he's not going in the top 50. In fact, a lot of the mock drafts I see, I must be in the ones where he's being drafted past 56 because I see him falling into the 60s and the 70s. And that's far too low.
That will not happen in my league, Michael.
No, will not. You tricked me into drafting him last year. And I might just draft him again this year just to spite you.
See, I swear you're going to draft all my favorite players.
As champion of the listener league, it is my duty to
Dude,
draft
Ricky
all
Rubio
your.
won you the league, bro. I don't know what you're complaining about.
That's true. I never gave up on Ricky Rubio. Never did.
Well,
And he played well during that second half.
and you were playing your best fantasy basketball when Ricky Rubio was playing his best basketball.
That's
right?
100% true because I kind of was banking on him to carry certain statistics, and then in the second half, he did.
You know what I mean? And I'm not, you won the league. Good props on you, but you were not. You were the third seed, like going into the playoffs. Like
I don't remember. I remember winning the league, and that's all I remember.
But my point being is though, like guys like this can propel you to a championship, right? If they get hot when you need them, that can be a big boost to your team.
That is all that matters. That's also why I like Roto, because the entire season matters and not those 2 weeks where weird people are sitting and whatever and your playoffs are all screwed up. Or you have to end the playoffs like a month before the entire basketball superstars sitting. Like just play in a Roto league and get used to the fact that when the season's over, the entire season matters and the season's over. It's just like the Premier League in England. The whole season matters, and then at the end of the season, it's over.
I also feel like in Roto leagues,
no playoffs.
Like it adds a whole new layer of thought to it, because it's not just I'm trying to beat Mike in assists, right? It's maybe I'm trying to beat Mike and Steve and Fred in assists, but I could also go for someone in rebounds and beat George in rebounds, right? Like there's a lot of different ways to look at it, and it makes when you do have to stream a spot, it makes you think so much more about it. Like, what categories can I actually move up in? Can I move up 3 spots in this category as opposed to 1 in this category? How's that going to affect my percentages, right? Because percentages can go both up and down. Yeah. So you got to think about that. Like, there's just so many new layers to the game.
This is a good rant. Save it for the Roto versus head-to-head. See, that's the thing. You're going to have to take the head-to-head side, because I'm not taking the head-to-head side. The Roto side is the side that I'm going to argue for, and you made a lot of my points. And also, like, it makes trading more complex as well, because, like, hey, I'm bad at assists, but that guy's really good at assists, and he could gain some points on guys who are ahead of me. Like, it's a whole nother game within the Roto game. So, do look forward to talking about how bad head-to-head is.
And here's what I'll say, too. This is one last rant in the middle of this podcast. Don't play in a league where they don't let you trade.
What?
Some guy was telling me about a league where they don't let him trade. That's not
a fancy league.
And I'm like, wait, what? Like, how do you, like, if you need to make your team better in an area, how are you gonna do that? Like, what if there's junk on the waiver wire? So if the league says there's no trading in this league, I think trading should be encouraged. I might start a league where everybody has to make at least 1 trade during the season.
So like that's the man. We really got off the side of it. Let's save some of this stuff for that. But you're right. That's absurd. I don't even know what to make of that. That gets me so mad. We better move on, because I'll go on a 20-minute rant about how stupid those people are. Let's talk about another guy. So Ricky Rubio, overlooked. This guy's being overlooked too. Derek Favors, average draft position on Yahoo 129. ESPN's got him 104. Mark's got him 119. He finished the year last year per game, 77 games per game, at 88. This guy's a top 100 player, right? Like, what am I missing here? He only played 28 minutes a game last year and finished in the top 90 per game. In totals, he finished 64th, but that's total. So hey, more power to you. That's even a better reason to pick him up. He was injured the year before, right? And I think a lot of people were off on him, and then he came back and he wasn't as good, like nowhere near as good as he was before his injury. And I think a lot of people kind of are throwing him out with the bathwater, when in fact he's being drafted at almost like 130, and he's a top 100 player.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Even ESPN 104, like, he's a top 100 guy for me. So, I think that's even a smidge too low. The thing I guess you don't love is, right, we've seen like a lot of weirdness from Derek Favors, in the sense that, like, he was 1.2 steals a game at one point, and then like he's 0.7 now. Now obviously he's playing like or 4 less minutes a game, but still, like, in 4 less minutes, that number should still be like around 1, not 0.7. So we've seen some statistical strangeness from him. Here's what I'll say: I like good rebounds.
Like a little weird, right? Like, feels like a guy who could fall off at any moment, but he doesn't.
Well, and two, now I think that they're limiting the time him and Rudy Gobert play together.
Yeah,
which is good for both of them. Like, I think they're both probably best as a center in this modern NBA. He's going to shoot a good field goal percentage. He's not really going to shoot any threes, but he's going to give you good rebounds. He's going to give you over a block a game and like 12 points, like with some decent steal numbers, right? Like, would be shocked if it was like 0.9 or 1 this year. Like, I wouldn't be. So, I mean, that's the 4 or 5 category help. That's a top 100 player for me.
I feel like I'm missing something with the way everybody's overlooking him. And like, that's kind of and I'm actually a little surprised with Mark's rankings too, but that's what I do like about Mark's rankings a lot. Is usually that it's just, it's a historical model. It looks at what they've done and it assumes that they're going to do just like most players of those types. They're going to do something very similar to what they've done in the last few years.
Yeah,
and that's usually true.
What hurts him a lot is he only played 23.7 minutes in the year before last.
Yeah.
And some of that was building back up from an injury.
Yeah, so that maybe hurts his averages a little bit in Mark's projections.
Right, and so that's why you see him a little bit lower in Mark's stuff. And not only did he play limited minutes, but he shot poorly, like the poorest he's ever shot from both the field and the free throw line. So those numbers are all affecting his projection in a negative way. And I just don't think we see that unless he gets hurt again, which, I mean, and that's obviously possible, but I wouldn't bank on it.
Yeah. Do pay attention to Derek Favors, another underrated player out there. The rest of this team, some of them are actually getting drafted in the top 150 in Yahoo. But I'm fairly surprised that is true. Jay Crowder, who played on this team last year, right? He's being drafted at 141. I feel like it's a little name recognition type of pickup there. Jay Crowder was not, I would say, fantasy-wise, just not ownable.
I'd actually say, though, that like at 140, that's probably about where Jay Crowder ends up ranked. Like, Jay Crowder's going to play a lot of games. He's going to do just okayness, right? Like, I'm not saying I'm drafting him there because there's no upside in that. But like, if you told me at the end of the season, like, where does Jay Crowder rank? I'd probably be like, like 140, 145, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I'll just say on totals, he played 80 games last year. On totals, he finished 160 per game. He finished 208. You gotta
look at the Cleveland time when he was basically not doing anything, right? Like in his time in Utah, that he played 2 more minutes a game, and the numbers are significantly better, all but the field goal percentage.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'm not interested. Just not interested at all in Jay Crowder.
And I'll say this: if we're picking like 200 people and he's ranked 192nd on ESPN, like there's probably a little bit of value in that.
Yep, standard league wise, not interested. Regular or big leagues, large leagues, worth because he's going to play good minutes. Like anybody who's playing good minutes is worth owning. So do pay attention to that. And actually, Dante Exum is kind of interesting. Like Dante Exum played well in the playoffs. Dante Exum is currently ranked 455 in ESPN's ranking.
Well, and here's the one reason I put him in too. He always gets some buzz this time of year. Like, oh, have you seen what Dante Exum's doing?
Remember
have you seen what Dante Exum? You know what I mean? He played 14 games last year. 2 out of the last 3 years, he played 0 games as a 20-year-old, then 66, then 14.
Yep, those are all true statements.
He's never played more than 22.2 minutes a game. Now, should he be ranked 455th? No, he's a top 200 player, even in 20 minutes a game.
Yeah, let's. If you're in a big league, he's a good flyer.
But here's the other thing I'll say: like
anybody on this team, but he'll end up playing.
Well, and here's the other thing too: like you can't feel great about picking him, right? Like if he's played literally 80 games in 3 years.
Yeah, I'm not excited about picking him. I'm just saying he's an interesting pick.
No, and
with an interesting ceiling.
I'm with
or
you.
very deep leagues.
Well, and here's the other thing. Like, he shot 48% last year, which seems crazy. And it was a 14-game sample, so let's not read too much into it. But, like, he just sometimes shows some things that you're like, man, that's really interesting. Ooh, that's kind of really interesting. And that's kind of really interesting. But I just don't know how much you can expect to really get.
That is fair. I would be remiss if I don't talk about the rest of the guys on this team, just so we can put to bed their fantasy value. Thomas Evolosha, kind of a fun sleeper and streamer when you need steals. Is getting older. A great old bull.
That's the only reason you wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the Bulls and how great he is. Got suspended for doing drugs, apparently. And, he played 21 minutes a game last year and had 1.4 steals in that 21 minutes. So he's a good streamer out there. And he always has been. He's always been a pretty good streamer. Just so keep an eye out on him. Alec Burks. I'm not terribly interested in him at all, right? I don't think he's really going to do much at all. And then I want to put this to bed. I want to put this guy. I want to put this guy in a permanent bed.
There's a reason I didn't put him on the list. I know who you're going to say, because he's actually being drafted in Yahoo leagues like in the 130 ADP range.
Grayson Allen is not a good NBA player, nor will he play hardly at all for the Utah Jazz. And there I've said it. Listen to those words again. He is not a good NBA player. He might have had some great fantasy stats in summer league, but he's not going to play anything close to extended minutes on this team. And he's not a good NBA player. He's going to get ate up by people like Draymond Green, like Jimmy Butler. Can you imagine Grayson Allen? I swear to the almighty basketball Jesus, if Grayson Allen undercuts one of my favorite players in the NBA, I'm going to personally find him and just cut him right down the middle. From sternum to taint, I'm just going to come right down the middle.
That's a little extreme there. I'm not going to go that far, but
that's how I feel about Grayson Allen.
So I saw the summer league stuff, and I saw all of it. I just don't know, man. I saw him at Duke, and he had one real good year. The last two have not been very good at Duke. He's an older rookie, right? He's already like 23 years old. Him and Devin Booker are like the same age.
I think Devin Booker is younger.
Devin Booker is younger by like 6 months, I think, or 2 months. That's a couple months. So
there's no reason. There is no reason to talk about this.
Here's the thing: I don't get the hype. Like, why are people drafting him in Yahoo standard leagues? Like, what is it?
I get it. They saw one stat line in summer league, and they're like, "Well, he played at Duke. He's the consummate white guy at Duke. I'm white, and I don't know how to play fantasy basketball. I'll draft him. This is great. He had a really good line in one of the games, and it just goes to show you the difference between just like the hype machine coming out of summer league, which is ridiculous, and the fact that no one saw what's his name, Luka Doncic, play one game. All it would have taken is one summer league game, and you would have Luka Doncic being drafted ahead of Donovan Mitchell.
Well, what's crazy too to me about summer league is like, what's the most any team plays? Like, if you win the championship in Las Vegas, you literally play 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, 8 games,
7, 8 games, yeah.
Like
against guys who are not going to play. Like, majority of the people in summer league aren't playing on an NBA team.
Yeah, they're either G League or overseas players.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's the first professional experience, and people watch because you just want some.
There's nothing else going on in your
brain, right? But like, would you read into okay? Ricky Rubio is going to play his first 8 games of the season. Are you going to say that's going to be a stat line for the whole rest of the year?
No, it certainly wasn't.
And that's what I'm saying is like any player, right? Like, I don't know. Say Anthony Davis comes out and drops 40.
He actually usually does that. So
well, say he does it 4 of the first 8 games and he drops 35 in the other 4. So he's averaging 37.5 points a game. Are you going to say he's a 37.5 point a game scorer this year?
No, but he might go for the scoring title.
You know what I mean? And so like, but my point is like to bank on 8 games in summer league against inferior competition doesn't make any sense either.
You're right. And that's why I just don't understand this. So once again, Grayson Allen is not a good NBA player, nor should he be drafted in anything but the largest league possible. Even those leagues, I'm like, I don't know. There's no, I don't know what you're doing.
If there's 450 players drafted, which I have a league like that, yes, I'm crazy.
God, yeah.
Okay, I might pick Grayson Allen at some point, right? Like after it gets to like past 250 or 300, there's some real dregs, man. Like you got to feel good about Grayson Allen at least staying on a team for the next 2 or 3 years. So
I don't know about that. I think Doug McDermott might play more NBA games than Grayson Allen.
And you know what I mean? And at some point, like you just want to take a shot on someone who's young and you haven't seen him be terrible. So I get drafting him in a hugely deep league. But if it's 200 players, I'm not drafting Grayson Allen. If it's 250 players, I'm not drafting Grayson Allen.
Damn it, Tyler. I didn't want to talk about Grayson Allen at all. And here we are spending
You brought him up.
I brought him up. I had to tell everybody.
I didn't put him on the paper for a reason.
I had to make sure everybody was clear out there, all the listeners out there. And I think that's it for the Utah Jazz. Speaking of the listeners out there, if you guys like what we're doing, rate, review us, tell your friends about us, tell your league mates about us, tell your parents about us. I don't know why you do that, but it'd be kind of weird to bring up, but tell them. Why not? Just tell them about the podcast. And if you want access to premium content to help you win your draft, win your league, or you want to join one of the listener leagues for the podcast, go to patreon.com/watchingtheboxes and subscribe. We're going to have a lot of good content up there just for subscribers. Tyler, where can people find you on Twitter?
You can find me on Twitter at Tyler P. Watts.
Beautiful. And you can find me at Watch the Boxes. That's it for tonight. Everybody, have a good one.